Welcome to another broadcast of Northwest Georgia Cryptics. Uh, as always, I'm joined with by my co-host, Mr. Blake Duckworth. Tonight we've got a good show lined up. We've got Mr. Barry from Praying and Squatching with us tonight, and our special guest, Mr. Zeus Platt from Western Slope Bigfoot in Colorado. We hope we're going to have a good show tonight. We've got some tracks that Zeus has found out there that he's going to be sharing with us. So let's get everything going. Barry, you okay tonight, buddy?
Yeah, I'm all right. I'm just tired. Like when I messaged you, I didn't even know what day of the week we were on.
All right, I'm going to bring Mr. Zeus on.
How y'all doing?
Oh, we're doing good, Zeus. This is Barry Robertson from Praying and Squatching out of Kentucky. Barry's going to be with us tonight on the show. He'll be asking you some questions along with us. Zeus, you want to go ahead and tell us what's been happening in your neck of the woods, bud?
Well, granted, I haven't been out all winter long. It's been snowing pretty bad, so I haven't been out all winter long. My job, just up the canyon, I've had a little bit of activity after it got nicer, and that 4 foot of snow, it melted off. And anyways, I'm a maintenance guy for some resorts up the canyon there, and one of them, Timber Creek area, where the resort cabins meet at the edge of the woods. There's nothing but woods back that way. Just probably hundreds of miles, and there's nobody back there. And we started getting some activity, and this old guy that I work with, and this lady, she does like the hot tubs. We were all up in that area. We're up at the maintenance shed, and we were sitting there coming up with a game plan and some maintenance stuff, and I was facing towards the woods, and his back was towards the woods. He's facing me, and we're sitting there coming up with the game plan, and I heard wood knocking, very distinct. There was one knock, and then probably about 3 minutes later, there's another knock, and I kept telling that old guy, I said, "Did you hear that up there?" He stops, he listens, he's like, "Yeah," and he doesn't know a whole lot about Bigfoot, but he knows they exist, and he's seen a couple himself. He never told me his stories, but and then right after those wood knocks, there's this cheesy turkey sound. It wasn't a turkey. Something was trying to mimic a turkey. And it was at the same spot where those wood knocks were coming from, a little draw going up. Lots of rock, all kinds of places to hide, probably a zillion caves back in there. That whole mountain's like that. It's just nothing but rock. But, me being a hunter and spending most of my time out in the woods, I know about the wildlife. I've guided hunters and turkey hunting, and this the Sasquatch were trying to make turkey sounds, and granted they were close, but it didn't fool me or that old guy. And then we got back, we listened to it, and then we got back to the main spot, and Carolyn comes driving up. She goes, "Holy shit, did you guys hear that up there at Timber Creek area?" I was like, "Yeah." And she goes, "It sounded like somebody was clubbing the hell out of a tree, with a stick or something, and she goes, and then there was these turkey sounds. They didn't quite sound like turkey, but they were trying, whatever it was trying to mimic turkey sounds." I started laughing. I said, I was like, "Wow, you heard that too?" And she's kind of shaking, and she's kind of a high-strung lady anyway. But and then after that, there continued to be activity, whoopings, calls up there, vocalizations of whoopings, and lots of tree knocks, and she took down my number, and she tells me that she's really nervous, and she's she's on the verge of telling the boss that she doesn't want to manage that area, the Timber Creek and Sunnyside area, because that's kind of the same mountain. Just this point comes out just on the other side of that Sunnyside. And she just, she took down my number. She goes, if I hear anything or anything going on, I'll text you 911. And I was like, okay, cool. I'll butt up there, and I'll, if you get it, because she knows that's what I do. I try to learn more about these creatures, and I try to find out more about their existence and interact with them if I can. So I encourage anybody in this area, you have any kind of Sasquatch issues, and because it scares the living daylights out of everybody I ever talked to. So we were having more action after that big snowfall, and then it kind of melted off. There was just little bits of snow here and there. One day we were supposed to get a couple more inches, and it was a fairly nice day that day. It was probably like 40 degrees, and we were supposed to get a couple of more inches the next day. And it's almost like these guys, the Sasquatch found out my routine on where I go the most. It's like they're up there watching me. They know my routine. And so, okay, whatever. Went home that day, overnight, got up to go to work. Yeah, it snowed a couple of inches, maybe an inch and a half. And, I'm thinking, great, we got a shovel. And so I cruise up, I go to the main office, clock in, grab my stuff. I head to Timber Creek first. And when I got to Timber Creek, I want to say cabin 6, I'm shoveling snow, and I come around to cabin 6, and there's the door, and then there's the doormat, and then just past that is where some snow started. That's where the snow started from the overhang. And I get up to the front door, and I notice these 2 pine cones standing straight up perfectly on the mat, about a foot and a half or so, maybe 2 foot. And I said, automatically it hit me. It's like, well, these guys kind of know my routine of what I hit first, coming from the main area, what I hit first, and then sprawl out to the other locations. And I came around, I went to the hot tub, and over there in front of the hot tub and the little steps, again, there's little pine cones. There's these pine cones standing upright right in front of the steps leading up to the hot tub. I said, they're little suckers. They knew it was going to snow the night before, so they came down, did some stuff down into the cabins, and they left. It would snow overnight. They're not going to find any footprints. And of course I looked up onto the side of the mountain and whatnot. There wasn't any footprints. And then I went to, I think, cabin 17, and there was these little sticks that were probably 2 foot, 3 foot long or so, sitting on a chair in the shape of an X next to the barbecue or under the chair. And that's one of the cabins that lines the forest behind. I said, I'll be damned. So I did my thing, seen some of those pine cones standing up, went around to take care of Sunnyside. Sunnyside also had a few cabins that had pine cones sitting on the doormat right in front of the doors, standing up, same way. And then I go to, I think it's number 10, to the cabin in number 10, and I'm shoveling around. I'm coming around the side, and the doorway is right here. And I get up to the doorway, and there's a fresh trout laying on the mat. It doesn't have any markings on it. It's not even frozen. It's not damaged in any way. It's a fresh trout sitting there. I thought that was pretty cool. I've had stuff like that happen before with trout and feathers and stuff like that being laid out on the car or in front of the door. And I took it as some kind of maybe a gift. But again, they did all this the night before it snowed to cover their tracks. So they knew it was going to snow. They came down to the cabins, did their stuff, and then they left back up the hillside, up to the mountain. And then I come along, and I find these. And
you come along and find what they'd left. Have you been doing any gifting at all in this area?
Oh, you did remind me. In the Timber Creek area, when you come around, because there's an entrance and you can go left or you can go right, and they come up onto the top, and on that back side, that's where the woods are. So I came up on the right side. I was going to take a lunch, and I just parked in front of one of the cabins, and I look up the mountain, and there's this big rock. It's about this big from 80 yards away or so up the mountain, and there's a natural bonsai tree sticking off of it. Really cool tree. And this was 2 days or 2 or 3 days later after the pine cones and the trout. And keep in mind, nobody rented these cabins. Every now and then you'll see one person, because there's nobody up here right now. The tourism really hasn't started at that time. I'm going to say a month and a half ago, 2 months ago. So anyway, I see this rock, and I thought, I'm eating my sandwich, and I go, well, shit, I got some cookies, and I got some little Oreo eggs, and they're like the Cadbury, but they're Oreo. And I thought, I'm gonna go sit some stuff on that rock up there. They like sugar. I know they do. They like chocolate, cookies, bananas, fruits and stuff. So I decided, okay, I'm still on my lunch. I grabbed 2 cookies and 2 Oreo eggs, and I hiked up to that rock, and I thought, well, this will be a gifting little area right here. And I went up, and let me point out again, that day that I did this, the next day it was supposed to snow, or no, I'm sorry, the day after it's supposed to snow. So I went up there, left the 2 cookies, left the 2 Oreo eggs, and I got a little video on my channel of me doing it and stuff. And then I talked to him. I said, okay, I left you some goodies down here. I hope you enjoy them. And so I went down, went back to work. The next day I came back in the morning, and I walked back up there real quick. And again, I made a little video of it just in case. None of it's been touched. They're still in the same spot. And also the bears were not awake. I think just now they're starting to wake up. So anyway, I went and checked that out. I was like, oh, okay, well, they haven't touched it yet. Sometimes overnight, sometimes a couple of days, sometimes it could take a week for them to touch something. I don't know. It all depends. So that night, it's supposed to snow again, a couple of inches. And I thought to myself, I'll bet you I told my wife, I said, I'll bet you they're going to go up there and they're going to mess with those gifts. They're going to take them or do whatever, I said, because it's going to snow tonight. They usually come down closer to areas like that and do stuff right before it snows, so you don't see any tracks, because they go above and beyond to hide their tracks. And so the next day, sure enough, there's some snow. And I'm thinking, oh, cool, So I went up there before it snowed, or before I had to go to work. So I cruised up to Timber Creek, jumped out, climbed up the mountain about that 80 yards or so, came around, and I noticed that those little eggs, it's these guys right here. And well, anyway, I walk up to the rock, and there's snow covering it, but I noticed there's one bulge where the egg is. There's one egg still there. The other bulge is gone, and there's nothing to where the cookies would be. So I swept the snow off, and I'm documenting stuff on my videos. That's what I do, I document any little interactions or anything. And I look, and there's a little crack below where the eggs and the cookies, and there's a little crack in the rock about yay deep, yay wide. The cookies were gone. One of the eggs was laying down in that crack, and I said, well, I'll be damned. I said, something moved it. And I picked up the egg and looked at it, and the wrapping on these eggs are a pain in the ass to get off. And what it looked like, he picked the egg up, he ate the cookies, picked the egg up, and he went to unwrap the top part of that egg on the top part, went to unwrap it, and it looked like he got frustrated with it and threw it back down. No marks, no scratches, no teeth marks, and there was some chocolate exposed on the little egg. No teeth marks, no scratches, no nothing. It was just peeled back the top of it with no damage to the egg in any way, shape, or form. Now, if a bird got to it, it's going to be scratched. It's going to be pecked at. Squirrels, any of those little critters, mice, it's going to have damage to the outside and damage to the chocolate. It's going to be torn apart, because I've done this before. And any animal that touches it that's interested in it is going to tear it apart because of their little claws and teeth. Well, this looked like it had been touched with fingers. And then, what's that?
I said, and just pull back.
Yeah, like he got frustrated on opening it because they're difficult to open. And he just threw it down and he said, the cookies are good enough. He just left. And it was completely undamaged.
Barry and Blake and I had a show last week, and we were talking about these things. A lot of people think that these creatures are just some dumb animal running around out there in the forest. And, as we were discussing last week, these animals have more intelligence and a higher intelligence, really, as far as survival is concerned in the wild than we do.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
And I really believe that.
Yep.
I'm going to post some pictures here of some footprints that you sent me, and I want you to explain those to the viewers, please.
Okay.
Barry, Blake, I'd like to get y'all's interaction on this, too.
Oh,
What
wow.
you got on that, boys?
Okay, this, all the pictures of the footprints I've gotten. Okay, first of all, keep in mind that this whole area where I'm at up here, I don't find huge footprints like you would in like the eastern part of the United States. I noticed there's a lot of real large tracks. All the tracks I've found, as far as I find a lot of impressions because the ground has a bed of needles from all the pine trees, so they leave impressions. And all the biggest footprint I've ever found or impression was only like 13 inches. And I was at a lake high above Ward. It's a really crummy little road to get into. And I found we were fishing for Easter, and this was during this last Easter. And we weren't getting any bites or anything, so I decided I was just going to scan I wasn't really looking for Bigfoot. I was looking for fishing weights and stuff like that, And I noticed a little mess of impressions, and I decided I was going to go just check it out, whether it be elk or whatever. So when I walked up to it, I seen these footprints, and there is a mid-tarsal break in these footprints.
Yeah, they are.
And that's what really caught my mind. And the picture just doesn't justify too much of how that mid-tarsal break is really broken. I mean, a human foot can't bend like that.
What would you say the depth of these prints are, Zeus?
This first one we're looking at right here is, I want to say, an inch, maybe an inch and a half. Also, I'm 250 pounds. And you see a little piece of my foot on the left-hand side there. And this mud is like a sandy type mud. So whatever stepped there, he was a heavy dude. He sunk right into the ground. And then right next to the footprint, you see like another footprint or something like a handprint. I think it's just another footprint that's just kind of slid by, and it's got that mid-tarsal break to it. But that one really sunk in there deep, and I'm standing next to this footprint, and I take 1 foot with all 250 pounds and jar my body weight down on it, and I can't even go in 2 or 3/8 of an inch into that mud, and this mud is really fresh because it's weird. The lakes up here, they come up and they go down. They drain, they fill up and drain like all the time. I don't really understand that. So after that, after the lake had drained down, it's like whatever it was traversed the water just inside the shore, not to leave footprints, I guess. And then they just decided to come up onto shore, and there were a lot of freshwater clams laying all over the place right there. And I figure, well, maybe they're eating freshwater clams and they're probably catching fish. But a lot of people, have seen these footprints, and some say they were human. And I tell them, that's your opinion, but the fact, because of the size of it mainly. And I said, well, what caught my eye is one thing is, why is somebody up there? It's still cold as hell up there. That mud is still gushy. If you were heavy, you would sink down in it like that. And very, very cold. I wouldn't take my shoe off and step in that. And second of all, the Sasquatch around here just don't seem that giant. They're 6.5, maybe 7 foot, but they leave 8, 12, 13-inch footprints like this. It's just the size of their footprints up in this area. And but they messed around in that water a little bit, and what caught my eye is that mid-tarsal break. I said, well, I'll be damned. Look at that. A mid-tarsal break in these things, man, because human feet can't break like that. They can't bend like that. And I said, well, heck yeah, I didn't want to put my foot next to the footprint just in case my foot would kind of erode the mud in a little bit and screw the footprint up. And then so I just placed that dollar bill there just to compare for size. They're not real big, but it's very, very, very interesting, and I just don't see why a human would be walking around out there. And if it was a human, his foot bends in a strange way that nobody else's can, and he's super, super heavy. He really is heavy. And I've had some other people tell me, oh, no, those are bear prints. And I'm like, no, you can't tell me they're bear prints. I know what bear prints are.
No, dude, you don't. A bear print does not come out like that right there.
No.
I've hunted black bear in this part of the country all my life, and there's no way that's a bear print.
Yeah.
Barry, what's your feelings on that, buddy?
I was paying attention. It's all got depth, but notice how much deeper the heel is than the toes.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever it was, whatever it was walking on its heels, had its weight back on its heels. And the Native Americans were famous for that. It's a stealth technique to keep your weight back on your heels.
Yeah.
Bring your heel down first and then the rest of your foot.
Yeah.
It's part of my explanation for why a creature that's 8 to 10 foot tall and weighs probably 600 to 800 pounds at least can move through the forest and not make a sound, because they walk and maybe even run on their heels.
Yeah.
Right.
So that caught my attention, how much deeper the heel print is than the toe.
That goes back to, what we were discussing last week. The characteristics these things show. It seems to me like that it's actually been handed down from one generation of them to another. And what's to say that what not to say that they didn't learn these techniques from the Native Americans.
Exactly. And
I've always said, who learned what from who?
Mm-hmm.
Who's to say the Native Americans didn't learn it from them?
Well, that's true.
Yeah, exactly.
That's true. I mean, that could very well be the case, Barry. And you're right. My grandfather taught me how to walk in the woods. I mean, a fully leaf covered forest, and be able to walk without making a sound. And you're right. It's walking on the ball of your heel and bringing that foot forward and letting it land with the lay of the land.
Yeah.
And that's what this creature has done right here. Blake, what's your feelings, buddy?
I agree with what Barry's saying. I mean, you can definitely tell the heel looks quite a, you know, definitely quite a bit deeper than the upper part of the foot, the toes, and so forth. Um, it just I wonder why the general population. I know this really don't have to do with the foot. Well, it does kind of have to do with the footprint, but you were saying that it seems like the general population are 6 to 7 foot tall and 9 to 13 inch tracks. I mean, I wonder why they are not as big as what you see or what people report in the rest of the country. I mean, of course, juveniles and stuff like that are going to be smaller, but typically your full grown, especially males, are going to be in that 6.5 to typically 8.5, 9 foot tall range. Your big males. I mean, you think it could be what you're seeing or what you're dealing with is more of a population of females?
I know the correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that what I've seen before too, that the males have bigger feet, wider feet,
Yes.
bigger feet. And the females have a skinnier foot.
And that's why I brought that up, because the way this print looks, it looks like more of either a juvenile or a smaller female.
And that's what I was saying is this whole area, even up from northern Colorado all the way down to Pagosa Springs, Colorado, I found tons of footprints. Nothing this good to and unfortunately, I know I didn't cast it. I wasn't planning on Bigfoot, and I didn't have my Bigfoot stuff with me. I don't have my casting material with me, and all I could do was get these footprints or these pictures of these footprints. But all of the footprints that I've ever ran into, they're just not really bigger than I don't know, 8 to 13 inches. And I scratch my head thinking, well, are the big guys, are they staying hidden further back into the forest while the females come out and maybe get fish or do stuff like that?
Or do the males in that area not get that big? I mean, like that's the only other explanation. It's either juvenile prints, more of a smaller female, or the males just don't grow as big as. Which, I mean, I don't understand. Why they wouldn't. I mean,
Well,
you got plenty of food sorts, unless it's different genetics to a certain extent, or just like how we have families. As far as humans goes, you have families that are taller than other, and that kind of runs through the family type situation. I mean, that could be an explanation for it. So,
yeah, I don't get it, but I haven't found a monster track up in this, and I out of anybody, probably anybody in Colorado, I probably comb these woods so much more because this is what I do. I like to get out to see the wildlife and try to discover and gather more evidence and learn more about these guys. And I'll be damned, and whenever I find footprints, they're not big. They're just not big. They're just 13 inches.
There's another one, bud, I just put up.
Yeah, there's another print right there. And I think that there was 2 individuals. And do you see the mid-tarsal break in that one right there?
Oh yeah, most definitely. And also, you can also, if you look right here at the front, you can see more of a detail of it looks to me like a I don't know, like a I'm not going to say a claw impression or whatever, but more detail on the toe area.
Yeah, there wasn't any claws. The picture it doesn't justify that kind of detail, but I did look at it, and there wasn't any claws. I think it was just mucky, and when it stepped, it stepped that heel down first, and then came down, and then as it pushes away with the front part of its foot, as we push away with more of our toes, because we don't have that metatarsal to do.
Right, and people saying that this is a bear track. A bear track don't walk on its heel. Don't. it does not bring the heel of its foot down like this creature.
Yeah. And if this, and just by chance, if that was a bear print, which I know it's not because bears don't have metatarsal breaks like that.
No.
That's a big ass bear right there.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
And,
I'll be back in just a second, guys. I gotta get something to drink.
Okay,
I gotta
go
get
ahead,
some Mountain Dew in me, or you're gonna hear my head bounce off the table.
Now, right here, more evidence: mid-tarsal break in this one.
Yeah.
You can see where the heel went down. You can see where the mid part of the foot is, and where the toes come in. That's no human track. That's no bear track. That is definitely a Squatch track right there, in my opinion.
Yeah.
What do you think, Blake? Hey, Blake, we can't hear you, bud.
Sorry, my mic was off. I'm sitting there talking.
Okay.
You can't hear me. Yeah, definitely. I mean, it just fascinates me about the size. Like that stumps my. I mean, like my brain's trying to wrap my head around. What either causes the population to be smaller, or like I said, are they a bigger population of females, and that's what you're seeing, or juveniles, or
I wonder if the altitude has something to do
with growth.
I started to say that because out here we do find larger tracks. Yeah, big tracks.
Definitely in width wise, like that's one of the big things here is wide tracks.
Yeah,
but now you got to look at it out here. We've got mountains, good mountain terrain in this area, but now I've hunted Colorado. Colorado, you get and tell me if I'm wrong. You get 6,000 feet out there, and you get above the timberline.
No, the timberline sets at a little over 11,000 feet.
A little over 11,000.
And these tracks where that lake is was about 11,100. Timberline was not even a quarter mile up the mountainside, and all the trees are small. All the pine trees. Now, if you get down to lower elevation, my elevation is 8,000. They're 20, 30 foot high. But where these tracks were taken is up a little over 11,000. Timberline was just right there. I mean, you could walk to the timberline and get up on top of these peaks and then come back down. And all the trees are short. You don't see a single tree that's over 7-8 foot tall.
Right.
The whole mountainside's like that. And then it hits the timberline. But I was wondering, I was actually telling my wife, because I don't ever find these huge footprints like they do over there in the East Coast area. And what's funny is right over here in Utah, you could find some good sized tracks, 18, 20-inch tracks. I've seen guys find them over there that big. But the elevation where they're finding those tracks are 4,000 to 5,000 foot. Up here, it's 7, 8, all the way to up to like Twin Sisters is over 14 foot high.
Now, quick question: all your tracks that you have found, like far as like if you could put into a square mile area, how close have all your prints been that you've found?
Like one set of prints from another?
Yes, just I mean, all the prints you found, have they been in kind of the same general facility, or I mean, are they completely different areas?
I find them next to structures mostly. If I'm walking in an area where there's no structures, and I'm searching for structures or something, and there's no structures, I might find a little trackway that comes by. But they're all that size. They're all smaller footprints. They're 12-inch, 13-inch footprints.
What I'm asking is it pretty close to each other that you're finding these prints? Like, say, a half a mile from each other, a mile from each other, 3 miles from each, from.
It depends on. Say, I find one set of structures. And say I investigate that and I see all kinds of footprint impressions, where all the ground around here is very solid, or it's soft pine needle flooring. So when you step in it, you got to be pretty damn heavy to leave even an impression. So say if I
What I'm trying to figure out is, are these
Radius.
the same related exactly? Are these, you know, the
Or
same
range.
family? Are these the same? Are they the same? Actually, the same Bigfoot? Or I mean, especially, you know, I'm still going back to the size of them. Like, you know, I'm trying to connect something here, so that's why I was asking that. You know, are they?
Were these, in other words, were these tracks that we're showing now? Were they found in the general area, same general area, or were they found in different areas?
Well, from where I live and where I go squatching at these different places, you know, 4 or 5, even 10 miles, this lake, I want to say is 60, 70 miles away south of me.
Oh,
I could be wrong, but it's a long ways away. So that's what I'm saying. All the way down Allen's Park Ward and all up to the mountains in there, clear up to this northern part of Colorado. It seems like no matter where you go.
So it's definitely not one or two Bigfoot. It's a very common thing.
It's common that it's like the whole population is like that, and I'm wondering if the elevation doesn't have something to do with keeping them shorter, smaller. I don't know.
I mean, it would be a simple explanation. I mean, it makes sense. I mean, because like you said, I mean, you know, you have problem with, you know, your timber growing tall there. I mean, lack of, you know, lower oxygen level and so forth. I mean, does that have something to do with it?
Yeah, it could be because, like I said, above where I found these prints, was a little over 11,000 feet. the trees there are only like 8 foot tall, and they're really short. I mean, if I went walking through the trees, you'd probably see the top of my head because I'm like 6'3", and you come down here to the where I'm at, down in town and outside of town and all these areas. The trees are, you know, 20, 30 foot tall. You know, they get pretty tall, but when you start going up in elevation, the shorter the trees get, the skinnier and the shorter they get.
Right, now that's like where I live at here. I've got 100-foot pine trees in my front yard.
Mm-hmm.
No,
And I'm wondering the food source. There's no short of food source as far as deer, elk. There's an incredible amount of game up here, so it's not like they're going to get hungry. But it's not like on the East Coast where you guys get a lot of berries and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, most definitely in the summertime. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not like that up here. There's not. You don't have all these berries and shit. You'll find some wild strawberries and some other kind of berries that I can't think of the name of them right offhand. But there's some berries, but you don't find them that often.
So that's like in our area. That's like in our area. You have huckleberries, you have blueberries, you have wild grapes, you have blackberries, you have muscadines, elderberries. Yeah, all that stuff in this area.
Yeah.
Feed on.
They got a ton to eat, and mushrooms. You don't really find mushrooms up here.
No,
I was going to say, in contrast, though, you have a much bigger fish population, and bigger and more fish. You've got the salmon runs and
salmon. Yeah, we got salmon,
pike,
walleye, muskies, all the trout, and all the game. So there's plenty to eat.
So it balances out. You got fewer berries but more fish.
Yeah, and supposedly Sasquatch forage off of. They forage plant life, not so much berries, but some grasses and aspen trees. There's no shortage of aspen trees up here. I've gotten reports of people saying they've watched these things grab handfuls of aspen leaves and sit there and eat them. So I thought that was pretty interesting because there's a lot of aspen up here.
Now,
Well,
one more
I think
Yeah,
question.
we were talking with a guy.
One more question.
Go ahead, Blake.
Back to the footprint. Sorry. What's the lowest in elevation you've actually found a footprint?
I want to say when I was in Oregon, right at sea level. What the hell is the name of that? We were steelhead fishing. There's Coos Bay, North Bend, and you go just up a few miles, and there's there's another little town up there. I can't think of the name of it. It's just outside of North Bend, going north. And me and some buddies were steelhead fishing, and you drive into the woods a ways to a river that runs into the ocean, and the steelhead run up it. And we found some footprints there. They were pretty. If I remember right, I would say 15, give or take. You know, they were bigger than this, but they weren't real fat. They were still kind of on the skinny side. Not real skinny, but in comparison.
You said that was in Oregon. I'm referring to where you're from, like where you do a lot of your talking about the smaller footprints there. I was just trying to figure out if you found anything lower in elevation that kind of would go against the elevation thing, or
No. If you head down the mountain to the flats, you get the high plains. They're 5,500 to 6,000 feet out that direction. But then again, you got all kinds of cities that line that all the way down. And there's no place there's no trees out there. They're just high plains. So once you start coming up into here, cruising up to this altitude, you immediately start to hit 6,500, and then it goes up to 8,000 here. So the elevation isn't real low. And the lowest part of the elevation is where the city is, and it's flat and a lot of private property. And in that kind of a condition, I kind of wouldn't know where to look. There's not really.
So most of the stuff you do there is in that probably 8,000 to 11,000 feet, I would imagine.
I'd say about 7 to timberline.
Okay.
Yeah, there's just nothing. It's all high country up here. And even when I was in Pagosa, because I research in Pagosa, it's a fabulous area. It's the same thing over there. Their elevation's about 7,500 feet, and nothing gets below 5,500 until you go down into Utah, and then you can hit about 4,000, 4,500. And it seems like some of the guys that research those areas over there, they're able to access good spots at that elevation. I've seen some bigger footprints come out of areas like that, but as soon as you get here, and I've seen, let me tell you too, I've seen some other, because I'll get on YouTube and I'll watch all kinds of other researchers, because I just like watching stuff about Bigfoot. So I like to watch other researchers, see what they find, and those other researchers that are in Colorado, like over towards Grand Junction and a little bit south of me, well, they run into footprints themselves, and I have not yet seen one of them find a monster footprint. Again, they're footprints like 12-inch, 13-inch footprints. They're just, the giants are either hiding or there just isn't any giants here, and they're just 6 to 7 footers that run around here, But I think they're real wide. They're very
we act like we're talking about a small creature at even 7 foot tall. I mean, it's still a big, still a big being, regardless of if it is smaller than other parts of the country or even lower lying areas around in your area.
Mm-hmm. They still have tremendous amount of strength.
Yeah, we're not talking about no 5 foot being here. I mean, 7 foot is still big.
Still a good creature. Barry, what about from Kentucky, Barry, in your area up there? What is the most common size of track that's actually found in your area?
I think they run around the 16 to 18 inch range, somewhere along in there. Maybe a little bit bigger, a little bit on average. I think most of the ones I've found have been right in there.
So basically about what we've got here in Georgia.
Yeah.
Well,
I was thinking, if you compare them to people, as you go up in elevation, people get shorter. If you go over to Tibet and the monks up in the Himalaya mountains, most of those people in those countries are lucky if they top 5 foot.
Mm-hmm.
Well, with evolution, I learned to talk. I'm thinking with Sasquatch, it may be the same thing, you know, as you go up and they get shorter, just like.
Well, when you look at it that way, definitely makes 100% sense.
Sure does.
Because I remember watching Josh Gates did one of his expeditions over to Tibet, and I think Josh Gates is like 6'3", 6'4", about like you. I mean, literally, most of these people come up to mid-chest on him. He literally towered over the population over there. Because like I said, I'd say some of the men didn't break 5 foot.
Yeah. Also,
and of course, that's the Himalayas. You're talking 20,000 feet there. But
I want to point out too, because I've been in Montana. Montana's a lower population. You go to Libby, Montana, it's a little over 2,000 foot there, but it looks like this area. It's real mountainous. They got a timberline, and I think that atmosphere has an atmosphere that kind of from Colorado real high and get into Montana, it's a little lower, but the atmosphere is you know what I'm saying? And so you go to Libby, Montana, you go to Hamilton, Montana, beautiful country. It looks like where I'm at right now, but their elevation's only 2,000 foot, 3,000 foot. The mountains, a tall peak is like 6,000 foot, and it's got a timberline to it. Because some of the big tracks that I found, the bigger tracks that I found were in Idaho, northern Idaho, and in Montana, Hamilton, Montana, Darby, Montana, all along that Bitterroot Range. I'm also Blackfeet and Lakota Sioux. So the reservation that I'm from on the Blackfeet Reservation, St. Mary's borders the Glacier National Park, and the biggest footprint I've ever found was outside of Hamilton. You go to the, I believe it's called the Bitterroot Wilderness, and it's west of Hamilton, and it's raw wilderness for hundreds of miles back in there before you hit civilization on the other side. Well, there's one road that comes out of Hamilton, and it goes way back in there. And that print I found in there was a 20-inch footprint, give or take. Again, that elevation was only 3,000 at the most where I found that footprint. And it was a huge footprint, very wide, and lots of vocalizations up in there. But again, elevation, it's a lot lower, so the Sasquatch are giant. Until you get up here to Colorado and there's people that have to leave the area, get hauled off in an ambulance because there's no freaking air. They end up having heart attacks and passing out and getting dizzy and fainting and everything because they're not used to the elevation up here.
Now, there's another natural law, I forget what it's called. The further north you go from the equator, the bigger animals and people get because it's colder climate. And the closer you are to the equator, the smaller and thinner people are and animals are because of the hotter climate. It's like you go over to Ireland and Scotland, everybody's hairy and maybe 6 foot tall at the best. Yeah. If you go down to Tahiti, they're as smooth as a baby's butt and weigh 140 pounds with rocks in their pockets.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I forget what that's called. It's a natural law. The further north you go, colder climate, things get bigger. But
like
I can't think of what it's called.
The vegetables and stuff in Alaska we're talking 100-pound watermelons and shit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, it's just like bears. You got eastern.
Yeah, it's been very interesting.
You got black bears.
On this.
And as you go up, you get brown bears, grizzly bears, Kodiaks.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's polar bears. The further north and colder you get, the bigger the bear gets.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that could be the same thing with Sasquatch. I mean, that could most definitely be it. Like I say, in this area, I have reports and Blake's taking reports. Blake's actually saw at Lake back in 2011 that the male was a real good sized male. Of course, I think he said the female Blake was what 6.5, 7 foot tall. That's what you judged on it.
About 6.5.
So, yeah, we do have. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Jason.
when you get out of Montana and you start heading up into British Columbia, the Sasquatch get huge. They go. They it's like for here in the high elevation, they're smaller, and then the further north you go, and you start getting up into like Montana, and you start getting up into Canada, they get big. And I've seen some researchers out of British Columbia, and some of the prints they find, they're big old 20 inches and bigger, and 18 inches, and I'm like, you guys are lucky, man, because I would love to find a print that big down here, and I just don't think I'm going to. That one picture of the footprint that you posted up, it looked like it was an older print. That's probably that one was actually a pretty good size. You could tell it was a foot shape, and when you were physically there, you could tell that was a significantly bigger print, and I was surprised to find one that big.
And I've got another picture here, Zeus, that you sent me.
Well,
on this print, you can actually tell the outline of a creature.
That's not a print.
Or I meant the picture. Sorry about that. No, I mean, I'm talking about the picture. Sorry, Barry.
That's okay. I just wanted to stop you. I just wanted to stop you before you went too far.
That's a good looking print there.
I don't know how you managed to do that. Smashed it into a tree.
It's been a long day, boys.
All right.
I'm telling you, if I ever find a print that looks like that, I quit.
I'll pack it in. I'll quit.
I'm done.
Ricky, we gotta get out and find some prints, buddy.
Okay, boys. They got me enough here. Now, explain this picture, Zeus.
Okay, this is one of the first time I went into this area. It was about 4 months before it got cold up here. So I want to say July. It was about in July, and we were cruising up into the park here, and I get feelings when I drive by certain areas, right? And we're driving up the mountain, and this road climbs up to 12,000 foot high, and then it drops back down into Grand Lake area. And I passed by it in this area, and I told my wife, I said, I looked over and I drove by real slow, and just an intense feeling coming off that area. And I looked back in there, and I could see structures been there, big X's and stuff that, that it's no snow load, no wind or anything is gonna lay some of these structures the way they are. They're built by hand, and it's not a human. But I just got this intense feeling. So we went up and we cruised up and over the pass, and we went down into Grand Lake area, and we did some fishing in there, and then we came back, and I told my wife and my sister and a bunch of us that were with us, I said, there's a spot, I have to go check this out. And so we got to that location, pulled over, and I jumped out with at the time I had a really crappy camcorder, but at least if I get something, it's going to be there. And it's hard to catch a crystal clear picture of these guys anyway, because I think they use infrasound to manipulate your equipment and make it blurry.
I hate to interrupt you, but quick question. So did you actually see this before you took it? There's a reason I'm asking this.
Yeah, that was actually on a video.
Okay, so did it look different to you than what it come out in this picture?
It was more clear. With my eyes, I could see it was a female because she had breasts hanging down.
Okay.
I
The
can see
reason I'm
that in the
asking
picture.
because this kind of reminds me of the picture I have of my sighting. My picture, what's in my picture, did not look like what I seen with my own eyes. It kind of reminded me of this. It's kind of what it looks like in the picture, but it looked. It didn't look a lot different in person, but it did not look the same in my picture as it did as my actual what I seen with my own two eyes.
Yeah. Of course, like I said, this is a still shot of that video. It was zoomed in a little bit, but she wasn't the only one standing there. There was another Sasquatch that I didn't get a still shot because it's not good enough to even to get one off of the film. But with my own eyes, I see four sets of eyes underneath this log, and just to the left of that, there was probably about a 6.5, 7 foot Bigfoot. He was pretty tall, and he was looking through a Y of trees. Like there's a Y and a tree, and he was looking at me in it, and they look like they're half gorilla, half man. And she was off to the right, and I watched her step out from behind those trees, and I can't remember if it was her left arm that kind of swung out or her right arm, because you could kind of see her arm swung out there a little bit. And I noticed she had boobs, and then she just kind of, flipped around to her left after she looked at me for a minute, and then walked back into the trees. But unfortunately, if I would have had a better camera, I might have gotten that a little clearer. Although it's hard to get clear pictures of Sasquatch because they manipulate your equipment. Mm-hmm. And I've had my equipment. I've had videos where I'm taking video in the woods, and there's sections of my videos that are corrupt. Why are they corrupt? There's no reason for that.
Like going back to what I was talking about, the picture I took when I actually my sighting. It kind of same circumstance. This was back in 2011. Cameras on phones weren't the greatest then. Not as great, nowhere near as good as they are now. And I had a flip phone at the time. So you can only imagine, the camera on it.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to zoom in on it. But my picture was actually, I sent it to one of the investigators at the BFRO that I was speaking with. And they analyzed the photo, and actually, they definitely said something in the photo, but it just looks weird compared to what I actually saw with my own two eyes. So I don't know if it was the camera quality or what you were saying, some type of manipulation with the equipment.
Yeah, it very well could be the manipulation of the equipment, because if you distort that lens and you distort anything into that electronic system within that cheaper camera, it's going to distort the hell out of that image, and it's not going to look the same.
And that's pretty much it. What you're saying there is pretty much how to describe how it looks.
Uh-huh. So in that picture to the left of it, there was more Sasquatch, but my video didn't even pick them up. There was no point for me to even still shot it, but they were there. And then after this picture was taken, I want to say about a month later, I went back in there, and I actually have the video of the Sasquatch on video, and he popped his head up, looked at me, and then he dog runned from right to left. And as he dog run and he got past that log, and the log kind of slanted down so you could see more of him. You could see a dome-shaped head, and he looked back at me and then continued on. Scared the hell out of me. I had severe anxiety in there, bad. So I went back to the video, and I looked at it, and it's actually a pretty decent video. The Sasquatch pops his head up and looks over the log at me, and if I wouldn't have opened my big mouth, I probably could have got closer, because I did sneak up on this guy's. And there wasn't one there. There wasn't one Sasquatch. There was 3 of them there. One ran, and I got kind of creeped out, and I left. But in the video, you could see that there's 2 more Sasquatches in there after the one left. So I'm wondering if this Sasquatch in this picture is a little family that hangs out in that little area, and I just caught her on film again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And when I went back and I looked at that video again, you could see the head and the eyes. The eyes were glowing white in the daytime, and that's what it looked like to me anyway, with my eyes and the camcorder. And then it ran to the left, and you could see it its domed head, and it black, and it looks back at me, and then it disappeared down. And after it disappeared, there's all kinds of whistles and wood knots, and I just said, okay, I'm going to get out of here.
Well, now, Zeus, that's something I want to ask you, bud. With your encounters with these creatures out there, I know here in the southeast and eastern part of the United States, a lot of people report having bad experiences with these creatures. With what you've encountered out there, have you had a bad experience? Have you had these creatures show any aggression towards you? Did you get that, bud?
Are you talking to me?
Yeah.
Oh. Sorry, I didn't even hear it. Well,
Okay. What I was asking you, with your encounters you've had with these creatures out there, have you had any aggressive encounters where these creatures have actually showed aggression toward you?
not up here. I lied. They don't get super aggressive like on the previous show when I told you the one come at us, smacking fences and stuff, and scared the guy so bad he never stepped foot back in the woods. But I've had him yell at me very aggressively, just these deep, gutturally vocals, and you get the impression that they don't want you there.
Oh, and yeah, most definitely.
And I got a video right before it got cold at Twin Sisters. A lot of people are very interested in that video because there was a lot of mysterious things going on in that video. There was an orb that flew by in the video, and maybe that orb hit this branch, and there was an X sitting there, and on the tip of that X, out of some smaller trees, it's like the orb went down and tagged that tip of that tree, and it's all on video, and the tree is going like this by itself. And as I caught it on video. I was like, I didn't touch that. And you could hear low, very low end whoops and vocals, very low. And you could hear whistles. And at one point in the video, I heard a duck. There's no ducks. I haven't seen a duck up here yet. And especially up there, thick, dark forest. And then so I went down into where I heard a lot of the low-end whoops and whistles, and a couple of wood knocks. And I got down into this area, and there was a set of structures down in there, and then that's when he got kind of aggressive. You can hear it on the video. You'd have to turn the TV up real high, and you could hear it. And it scared me, and I said, I almost took off, but I kept my composure. I got scared on the video. I stayed around for just a second, didn't get anything else. Eventually, I left. I got back to the truck, and I was kind of shaken, scared out of my wits. And my wife was sitting in the truck, and she heard it, and she goes, "Holy shit!" She goes, "I heard that. Are you okay?" I said, "Yeah, I made it to the truck. I got it all on video."
Now, the videos you're talking about, are they posted on YouTube?
Yeah, they're on my YouTube channel.
Okay,
what's so crazy about that is I actually seen that video. How long ago did you post that video?
It was right before it got cold. Babe, was it in September I posted that video? I think it was around in September.
Because I actually seen that video before we ever talked, before I ever knew who you were. I come across your YouTube channel. I didn't even realize that was you until you just said something about that video.
Yep,
I
that's
had
me.
watched that video a while back.
Yeah, that's me.
That's pretty cool.
I don't know if you
Okay,
heard
your video's posted under Western.
Yeah, my YouTube channel is called
Zeus is art. Okay.
Yeah, and
I
it's
just wanted
got
to get that out there for the viewers before they.
Yeah, I welcome him to because I like doing this. I'm not in it for the fame and fortune. I'm in it for the soul education and to learn and discover more about these beings. And not everybody can go out and do these kind of things because you gotta have a set of chrome ones. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because outside of the wildlife that we already know about that's out there, the moose are dangerous as hell. They're more dangerous than a bear. They charge you. I'm sick of being charged by those goddamn things. But and then you got these creatures you don't fully understand, and there's other things out there besides Sasquatch. Oh yes, I wanted to bring it up on the show too. I think it was only last week or a week and a half ago. I got a report. It's just down the road from me. What the hell's that called? So it's like Springwood, or what's that little town called just south of us in the canyon? Spring, huh? No, you're talking the other one. It's oh, sorry guys, damn it. But anyway, it's just a tiny community just south of me. And when you're coming from here going down there, descending in elevation, you run into the first thing you run into is like their community mailbox in that whole area. There's got to be like 60 mailboxes right there, this big silver box. And well, her and her friend were cruising down there one night, and she called it a werewolf dude. And I said, "Are you sure it wasn't Sasquatch?" You know, because she knows and that's why she reported it to me, because she knows that's what I do. I take in all the information and then investigate and see what I can find. You know, because I just want to like educate people and try to shed light and try to learn more myself. Of course, I don't know everything. Most of the things I have are speculations of what I've seen out in the woods and how they act and how they migrate. So she told me they were cruising down, and just before that mailbox, she said this werewolf dude come running out on all fours. She said it had hands, but its feet were paws, and they were bent backwards like a dog, you know. And she said it ran up to the road, jumped up, and she showed me. She said it was all hunched over, and it was like this, and she said it acted like it had a hard time walking, and it walked across the road like that, all creepy, and it had this German Shepherd type head, but all black. And I said, "Well, how tall was it?" And she said it had to be 9 or 10 foot tall. She said it was massive. It ran up, got off, and walked on, 2 feet, and then it got back on all fours and hauled ass up this little ravine just this side of that town down there.
Sounds like what we've been reporting out here as being dog man.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
That's what it sounds like here. There's an area up in Burry's neck of the woods. What is that, Burry?
Land between the lakes.
Right.
On the Kentucky-Tennessee border.
Right, and there's a lot of dog man encounters reported out of that area up there.
And
yep, I'm on the other end of the state. As far as I'm concerned, they can keep that down there. But
Barry, I'm with you, man. I'm telling you what. If I ever go in the woods and I see something that looks like a half man running around, I'm leaving.
I've seen here in Pagosa and a couple of Montana. I've seen these dogman guys, but they're just and I just barely catch the side of a dog's head, black, and they're gone. And it's usually when I don't have a video recorder on me, or I just got a fishing pole, or we're just taking a hike with some bros, and we'll just see this thing flash by, and it looks like it almost looks like a Sasquatch body, but a dog head to it.
Well, that goes back to, and you talk about having the smaller ones in your area. there's theories that there's up to like 7 different species of a Sasquatch. And
Yeah.
some people think Dogman is just a subspecies of Sasquatch.
It very well
That's
could be.
one idea.
Yeah.
Because Sasquatch will come down into town right here where I'm at. My neighbor frantically told me about one that she wasn't a believer, but she didn't tell me that I was out of my mind for believing, because I've seen Sasquatch as real as an elk crossing the road. And so she's seen one about 50 yards out in front of our place, and she frantically reported it to me. Long hair, very long hair, dreadlocky hair hanging off of it, and more human, almost a human high cheekbone, Native American looking guy, long hair everywhere. And then here in town, in this little general area, they seem to look kind of like that, really long haired. And then you go up to where that picture that you just seen, in that area, they're short hair, and I'm talking probably 2 inches long, give or take. And they look half man, half gorilla, more on the man side though. But that's what they kind of remind you of. And then you go over here to Storm Mountain, they look like they're straight up goddamn Neanderthals, just protruding, big old eyebrows. They look like a Neanderthal, short hair. It's very strange. So there's just 3 in this little area right here that they look different.
And as you go further north into Washington and Canada and all British Columbia and all that, they have what they call the true mountain giants, is what they call them. Those are the ones that are supposedly 12, 14 foot tall, weigh half a ton.
Yeah.
Which I can't for life of me understand how something that big stays hidden. But
Well, I can't either, Barry, but I wouldn't have ever, until 1981, I never thought these creatures existed, other than, seeing the Patterson Gimlin film from '67. I would have never thought these creatures could have ever had it existed. But after my encounter in 1981, I became a true believer. I've been investigating these things ever since. I know they're out there. I know the creatures are out there in the woods. What else is out there? I don't know. I've not run into them. As far as Dogman's concerned, I've had a lot of reports, people seeing them. I've yet to ever run into one of them. And if I go into an area and run into what they would consider a Dogman, I don't believe I'll ever go back.
Well, Ricky, you can't say we haven't encountered something else weird before.
And I down at the lake at night. Yeah, I forgot about that.
Down at the lake, and that white thing we seen on the way out from the lake that one night. Remember, I told you I think I figured out what that was, but I'm not 100% sure. That was weird, whatever it was.
Yeah, we have some weird stuff.
We seen a white. I don't even know what to describe it as. You describe it, Ricky. I don't want. You seen it more than I did.
I don't know what it was. All I know is it came down out of the edge of the woods into this ditch, came up on the edge of the bank, and when our headlights hit it, it turned and went back down into the ditch and back into the woods. And guys, I don't know what it was. I've never seen anything like it.
Are you talking about a rake?
No, I don't know. It was what? It was. I can't even begin. Look, I'm just going to describe it the only way I know how to describe it. A white ball.
Oh.
That's what it looked like.
Was it furry?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, from what we could tell, yes.
Yes.
So not like an orb, but actual physical creature.
No, it was big. It was pretty big, but there's nothing around here for us animal-wise that looks like what we saw.
Yeah. Was it a ball, a white furry ball?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me tell you a quick story about that. I had a similar situation happen to me down in Dulce, New Mexico. I was working for the forest fire management up there, Bureau of Fire Management. And that really excites me that you guys told me this. Anyways, I was staying at some of the local Apaches' house. I was friends with a few of the Apaches down there. They're not exactly the friendliest people, but there's some really cool ones down there. And I was actually staying with them because I didn't want to travel the 30 miles back to Pagosa Springs. So we had went to the bar, they call it the Zoo, and I had this big car at the time. And there's tons of Sasquatch sightings, and there's other cryptids that people have seen out there that they cannot explain. And so I was going I was going home, I was going back to the place, and it was probably about 8 miles out of town into the woods. And it's like you're going towards Farmington, New Mexico, and you just take a left about 2 miles down, and you start heading up this canyon on a dirt road. Well, me and this chick Dana were driving along, and there's these white, long-haired, furry balls, 2 of them. They just loop, 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 loop across the freaking road. Don't know what the hell that was about, but they were white, furry
Dude,
balls.
I've tried to figure out what it was we saw. What we saw, like, dude, I've looked just for something similar. I don't know what the heck it was we saw.
And
I don't even really know how to describe it. It happened so fast. I was driving. Ricky was on the side that the ditch was on that it come out in. He seen it. He got a better look at it than I did. I seen it as we were going by it. But by the time my brain processed that I had seen something, we were done by it. And I went down, turned back around, and it was gone.
Mm-hmm.
And more, I can't explain. I saw no head.
Yeah, it had no body features. Like, it had no
features whatsoever. So I don't know I know we saw it. We weren't on drugs.
I definitely saw it.
We weren't on drugs. We weren't drinking. I mean, we were stone cold sober coming back from the lake at night. And we saw it. Now, what we saw, I don't know.
Yeah.
The only thing similar to that I've heard here, and this was probably 2.5 miles north of me. This guy was on Sasquatch Chronicles telling his story, and then I talked to him through Messenger. He said he saw something standing alongside the road at night. It wasn't white, it was black. He said the best I could describe it, he said it looked like Cousin It, a mop with feet sticking out the bottom of it.
There you go.
There you go.
There you go. That's the best way.
That's just what it reminded me of, the way you all described it. That's what this guy said. He said
that's exactly
it looked
what
like
I
Cousin
saw.
It standing there.
What's crazy is this was in the same area that we do all our Bigfoot research. So what the heck? Like, I don't know. I mean,
well, I don't believe in Cousin It, so.
No, I don't believe in Cousin It either. But I mean, that's the only way I know how to describe what it was. Like, that's
just the way you described it reminded me of that. Other than the color, he said this thing was jet black.
No,
you took the words right out of my mouth.
I thought you guys seen something like what I mentioned a minute ago, because I don't really mention that to anybody unless I talk to really open-minded people.
It was similar to that, but like Barry said, there was no head, there was no face to it.
Oh, it's like balls.
Yeah.
Well, he described this as more mop shaped, I guess, like an oval. Like you said, Cousin It, just a upside down mop hanging with feet sticking out.
I saw a blob. I'm just gonna leave it at that. That's what it looked like to me, just a blob. It had no features. It didn't have no significance to it. It was just a white, hairy something.
That's pretty cool.
And
another researcher described that, said he saw something run through the woods. It looked just a blob, and he was embarrassed about it. He said, "But I shot at it." He said, "I didn't know what it was, and I shot at it." He said, "I'm pretty sure I hit it.
Could have been a bad idea.
I might have killed it. I don't know what it was, but I might have killed it." I was like, "Well," and he was young when it happened. I said, "Well, man, a young 14-year-old kid, any of us have probably done the same thing with some blob."
Yeah. Put me in the woods, 14 years old, a gun, something like that run out on me. Yeah, I'd shot it too.
I'm getting ready to turn 45. Something looks like that runs out on me. There's a good chance it's going to get shot.
Yeah. Boys, I tell you, I've seen some wild stuff out there in the woods. I've been hunting the Northwest Georgia mountains and you're in Tennessee, Alabama since I was 7 years old. I've seen, until 1981, I thought I had seen every creature and had hunted every creature in this part of the country. Well, the day that I saw the Sasquatch down there on Talking Rock Creek, that you know, that you have people tell you that this is a mind or this is a life altering situation when you see one of these things.
Yep.
And you know it does. It makes you go back and re-examine everything.
Yeah.
That's what I've done.
Your reality is
You
changed.
know, I know. Right.
It makes you
know,
questions
your
what it
whole
does. It
outlook
makes
on.
you questions.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, can I mention something I forgot to mention? When we were talking about that video with the orb and the branch that moved, and you know
Yeah.
the one you said, Blake, that you've seen.
Yeah.
Let me go back to that real quick because something I forgot to mention. I think something followed me home from that spot, and because ever since I visited that spot, there's been this orb right here in this kitchen, and I don't know. My wife seen it all the time, every night, about that big around, and it would swoop down back and forth, living room to kitchen, and it would stop just at the wall to where you could see directly into the bedroom, and then it would start swooping again back and forth from the kitchen to the living room, and that all started when I did that one video up there, and for some odd reason I've been scared out of my mind to go back, but I've been drawn back to that Twin Sisters Peak area. But at the same time, I'm scared out of my mind, and I've been trying to get somebody to go out there with me, so I have an extra guy and that has a firearm because I'm in the process of getting a 357 right now and a 9mm, and I don't want to go back there by myself. I'm scared to death of it. Just the thought of it makes me scared, and I don't do that. I don't do that. I've got steel ones, man. I'll go out anywhere by myself with just a knife. And so what's funny is a friend of mine, about 2.5 weeks ago, she does pretty okay paintings, and she painted this little Sasquatch that's looking side view of this little Sasquatch. It's a pretty okay painting. I really appreciate her doing that. And then there's a moon above it, and there's a little UFO above it. And what's funny is the day that I put that up, no more orbs, no more activity, nothing. Gone. And it hasn't been back since, ever since I hung that up in the
Well,
hallway.
you bring up orbs, we've seen orbs where where I actually have my personal sighting at, and what kind of started my journey into the cryptic world. And I mean, for some reason, they're a connection between something with something, somewhere, somehow, someplace, whatever reason.
Mm-hmm. And I think the X structures, I have kind of figured it out a little bit. That the X structures line up with each other on which way they're pointing, from one mountain to the bottom to the maybe the edge of a meadow to the edge of a road on up the mountain. Several miles spaced apart or a mile spaced apart, and they all line up. And I was looking on this, I can't remember where I found it right off the top of my head, but it's this diagram of ley lines, these energy lines of the Earth.
Yeah.
And I've noticed a lot of those energy lines are laying right over the top of those.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, can they sense that? And they pop up an X, that's where an energy line's at? I don't know, but I find it weird that those X's are right over the top of energy.
Well, Ricky knows. I mentioned seeing orbs in all my trail cams and down in the cameras, and this was an episode of my show that didn't make it due to technical issues. But I had another researcher, Ricky knows, pretty much flip out because I admitted, yeah, I've seen them. Yeah. And Ricky knows what I'm talking about. He was just like, "That's got nothing to do with Bigfoot." I didn't say it did.
Oh, right.
I never said it. Ricky knows I never said it had anything to do with Bigfoot. I just said I saw him.
Yeah, for some reason that seems to be a reoccurring thing. That for some reason it may not have no significant connection whatsoever.
And as Murray says, there's a lot of people out there that don't. You can mention something about Sasquatch, about UFOs, whatever. And there's people out there, just like the one Murray's referring to, that goes off the chain. They go off the deep end on this subject. Well, guys, I'm open-minded to anything.
Yep, you got to be.
There's so much out there
You
that
got to do this research. You've got to be open-minded.
Yeah, you
Yes.
can't discredit anything.
exactly.
Well, wait till you get a chance to look at those links I showed you, Ricky, but what I was talking about.
Okay, I'll go back and check those out after the show, Barry.
That'll make you think. I'll send you some stuff
I
on
sure
the trail
will.
tonight.
Hey, can I ask you guys something?
Go ahead, Zeus.
Why do you think Sasquatch walks in a straight line like they do? And bringing up their back foot every time they take a step, they bring up their heel way up. And why do you think they walk in this perfectly straight line wherever they go? Do you guys have anything on? Do you guys have any speculations on that?
Guys, if you'll go back, we were talking about our I'm part Cherokee. My grandfather was full-blooded Cherokee, and the way I told you that he showed me when I was young how to walk through the woods without making as less noise as you can in the woods, and basically, when he was hunting, that's the way he walked.
Mm-hmm.
One foot in front of the other. And when he explained to me that lets you control your movements and control the pressure that you put on the ground. That's what he explained to me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's basically what I took it as with Sasquatch, with the way they walk.
And I would assume walking like that, you have a very good ability to instantly spin and come down.
Exactly right.
Versus if you're just standing like this. But
Right.
if you're walking, I think that would probably give you more ability to do a very quick spin and come to the ground. You kind of know what I mean?
Right.
Well, yeah.
Type stuff.
If you ever played basketball, when you try to pivot, the closer you got your feet together, your other foot to your pivot foot, the easier it is to pivot. Now I know at 5'7", I shouldn't be giving basketball advice, but that's just how it works. As you got your feet closer together, it's easier to plant and pivot, like you're talking about.
Yeah. And
But another thing, going back to the North American Native Americans first tribe, I'm 1/8 Apache, and I always say it's the only part of me I take any pride in or claim is the 1/8 that's Apache. And you was talking about how the Apache's not the friendliest people in the world. Well, to the best of my knowledge, they're also the only tribe that had a more or less kill or be killed on-site blood feud with Sasquatch. And I've laid awake more than once thinking about that. I was like, I've got Apache blood in me. Can these things sense that, smell it, whatever? And they've hunted me down all the way up here in Kentucky. And they're attracted to me because I've got a little bit of Apache blood in me.
Step outside and get cold cocked. Whop!
I mean, I've actually thought about it. I'm like, I've been out there in the woods. I was like, my tribe has got a blood feud with these things. And here I am out here antagonizing them.
Not a smart thing to do, Barry.
Yeah, it might not be the best idea I've ever had.
When you see him, you just say,
What I was going to go.
good Apache, I'm on your side.
And I've actually heard one fairly interesting theory about what started that blood feud. But what I was going to say about the walking in a straight line, just like the Native Americans, it would make it easier to backtrack if you wanted to hide your tracks and backpedal and backtrack. You flank somebody that's tracking you like an idiot like me out there. If you wanted to flank me, backtrack in your own tracks. I'm still following you this direction. You've already circled around. You're behind me now. You're following. If you're the Sasquatch, you're following me. Well, I'm still following your tracks. But the Native Americans would do that. That's how they would set up ambushes and stuff. They would backtrack in their own tracks. So the cavalry or whoever, Texas Rangers or whoever's chasing them, thinks they're going this way. When in all reality, they've already passed them and the Native Americans are behind them. Mm-hmm. And there's plenty of stories where they did that and just wiped out large groups of white men using that simple trick. And it took white man forever to figure out how they were doing it.
I also got a little speculation too on why they have the habit of walking like that. Outside, I've thought of the hunting and all of the we talked about, but another thing that I thought of too is that it probably really helps them on balance when they're traversing logs. Up here, they tend to like to traverse logs, hop to a rock, traverse rock. They try to stay off the ground. So at all availability, I've seen logs, and if you look, it's like there's a trail on them. They got no limbs or anything. And I've seen past videos and whatnot, and they'll traverse those logs. And I think that front step and stuff is a really that's also helps them out with balance on that log, to where they can run across those logs and whatever. Because I've seen logs that stretched a mile away that were laying on top of each other and whatnot. And there's a certain set of logs that look like they've been walked on all that way.
Well, that would go a long ways to explaining the single footprints you find. You find a footprint, and then you look around for 60 foot in any direction and don't find the next footprint.
Exactly.
Well, if they're stepping on rocks or logs or...
Yeah.
I think most of the times when we find a print or anything else for that matter, if we see them, it's a mistake. They're not perfect. They make mistakes.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Ricky, we're at an hour and 30 minutes.
All right, guys. Yeah, we've had a very good show tonight. Zeus, I want to thank you for being on the show. Barry, I want to thank you, man, for joining us. And tomorrow night, Barry, if you get free and want to do a show, just let me know on Messenger, and we'll do one tomorrow night.
I got a lot to do tomorrow. Work on the truck, mow the yard, and a dozen other little things. But if I'm not completely exhausted by the time it rolls around.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Before we leave, I wanted to make one suggestion to the guest here. You talk about the cabins where they're leaving the pine cones right up against the doors and stuff.
Yeah.
Is there any? Do you use trail cameras at all?
I had a trail cam in the past, but I never really used trail cams because it seems to really piss them off. If you want to make one angry, or you want to not see one at all, put up a trail cam. But I had just bought a couple of trail cams. I told my wife, I'm going to order these trail cams. Sometimes you get lucky, you catch something on it. And I said,
well, what I was thinking is these cabins this time of the year when they're deserted, nobody's using them, put the trail cam inside the cabin facing out a window to either side of the door. And most trail cams have got the range of like 40 yards on them, so you could set them 20 foot back from the window and maybe even hang drapes with a slight opening where the camera's shooting through the opening.
Yeah.
Maybe they wouldn't notice it being inside the cabin.
Possible.
It was just a thought I had, because I know they avoid mine like the plague. I'll get an arm here and an elbow there and a glimpse of fur there, but that just occurred to me when you were talking about the cabins and the pine cones and all that.
Yeah.
To set it up inside the cabin.
Yeah, and if it's inside, their thought process is not going to. I mean, if they, of course, I'm 99% sure they can see infrared light, but with it being inside the cabin, their thought process may not think that, hey, that's a camera.
Exactly. That's what I was thinking. That may be enough to throw them off. They might walk right up to the window. Well, if they see the camera when they look in the window, it's too late. You already got the picture.
Yeah,
unless
they got the picture.
proceed to go through the window.
It'd be neat to get a good picture of one looking in the window like that.
I mean, I've always said it's better to be lucky than it is to good when it comes to this.
You got that right, no doubt. Hey, anything's worth a shot.
Yeah.
Doing this type of research, anything is worth a shot.
Yeah.
That's just off the top of my head. I mean.
All right, guys, we're going to close her out. Zeus, buddy, anytime you want to come back on the show, just give me a shout on Messenger. We'll be glad to have you back
Thank you,
anytime,
Zeus.
bud. You've got a standing invitation.
Yeah, I'm
Go ahead, Blake.
Well, I just want to tell Zeus thank you, and as always, Barry, thank you as well.
Anytime, if I can, I'm more than willing to help.
well. Hey, it was fabulous being back on your show. It was good to see you, Rick and Blake. Very good to meet you. What was your name again?
Barry Robinson.
Barry. It's very good to meet you. I look forward to talking to you some more in the future.
Yeah, Zeus, go on and check Barry's channel out. He's got Praying and Squatching.
I've checked his channel out before. I've actually ran into his channel on YouTube.
Oh, have you?
Yeah, I checked some of his stuff out. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, Barry does a good show. But guys, thank y'all. Thank you very much for being on the show tonight. Thank everybody that's watched us tonight, wanted to watch us in the future. Rick Weaver for Northwest Georgia Cryptics. Again, thank you guys. Blake, as always, buddy, thanks for being here. If you don't mind, Blake, hang on before we sign out, okay?
Okay.
All right, guys, everybody, thank y'all and good night.
Been great. God bless you guys.
God bless. See you guys.
All right, everybody. As always, we've come to the end of another show. I want to thank everybody for watching tonight and those that are watching in the future. Blake, you got anything you want to say before we close out?
Nope. Just as always, guys, thank you so much. If you're not already subscribed, just go ahead and hit the subscribe button, little bell notification, give us a like and a comment. I just hope everyone has a great evening.
All right, everybody. Yeah, have a great evening, everybody. And again, as Blake said, hit that subscribe button, show YouTube you like our content. Good night, everybody.